Okay, folks, I wanted to go in a little more detail on figure 16-2 that I couldn't do in class, or that is really done in the book. Okay, so what chapter 16 is all about is kind of this real world push and pull conflict between managers and owners and consumers and government as the representative of consumers and the wishes of society. For short, call that the regulators. Okay, so the usual idea is the regulators are on the side of the consumers and managers and our owners are opposed to that. Okay, now this is going to be kind of a weird thing to actually draw because 16-2 in the book is actually kind of incomplete. So I want to draw supply and demand like this. Okay, and our point in chapters 13 and 14 is that the worst that managers can and owners can do is produce at the perfectly competitive level, which is at the equilibrium, and sell at the perfectly competitive price. And without drawing all the other stuff, okay, what a monopolist does is choose a profit maximizing quantity that is lower than the perfectly competitive industry would. Okay, so the only things we're going to see in the real world are in this range. Okay, this is money losing for everybody. This is money losing for the monopolist that gets over here. Okay, and so a monopolist wants to produce less and sell at a higher price. So again, we're not going to see all ranges across the spectrum. What we're going to see is a defined range between the worst that managers and owners can do and the best that managers and owners can do. Okay, so remember the labeling of triangles and stuff? Okay. The book does kind of an incomplete version of this in 16-2. And so I'm actually going to go back to so many books here, and they're all buried, to chapter 7 and label the same way that we did in chapter 7. So I want to do this like figure 7-4, which I think is a better version than figure 16-2. Okay, to do the labeling like 7-4, you need to add one more dashed line going across right there. And what you should end up with is two small triangles, two big triangles, two rectangles, and a big triangle that you can form here by the combination of a small triangle, a large triangle, and a rectangle, and a big triangle that you can form here from a small triangle, a medium-sized triangle, and a rectangle. And in that chapter, they are labeled A, B, C, D, E, F. And what A is always received by consumers. Okay, so under perfect competition or under monopoly, consumers still get A. What that is that's the rich people who will always buy the product, or the ones who really need it and have a high reservation value, or really like it and have a high reservation value. It's the people who will pay the price for it no matter what it is. Okay? And then we have B that's kind of in flux, and C that's kind of in flux, and D is always received by producers. And E and F is always received by producers. But in this diagram, what's labeled B, C, and E are up for grabs. And in the simplified version in figure 16-2, those are labeled A, B, C. And I think it's a mistake in the book to have a diagram like this that they introduce in chapter 7, and then not to reuse it again when they get to chapter 16, just to simplify things. That seems like poor editing to me. Okay, so what's going on with B? Okay, B is surplus that the consumer and the producer fight over. Okay, so I'm going to split this up. Consumer gets, or consumers get, under perfect competition, and producers get under monopoly. Okay, and then C, I should have given myself enough room. This also gets split up. Okay, consumers get under perfect competition, but it is lost under monopoly. That's our deadweight loss, okay, or part of our deadweight loss. And then E gets split up the same way. Producers get under perfect competition and lost under monopoly. Okay, so the forces of monopoly and market power are always pushing in this direction. This is what owners and managers are trying to do. And what they are sacrificing is C and E in order to get B. And that's a pretty good trade-off for them. They like that idea. Sorry, I got an alarm going off here. I got to snooze. Okay. They would take that trade-off. Consumers like you and I would not, but we don't often have the market power to stand against them. So we hope that government and regulators push back in this direction. Okay. And if they do that, that's like shifting B over to consumers, getting C back and giving it to consumers. And what E is those are the kind of medium cost producers that would be forced out of the market by the monopoly, but might be in the market with perfect competition. Okay. And so they come back and get some surplus out of this. Okay, so the real world push and pull is we have this pull towards less production and shifting some surplus over to producers, and this pull towards more production and shifting some production around and increasing it to the benefit of consumers. And so we can view the world as a lens where we kind of fluctuate between the two of them depending on the location, depending on the market, depending on the time. Okay? And the real question for society is as we move forward, which are we getting more of? More of these things or more of these things over here? Okay? Currently, where we are with the internet, it certainly seems like there's a lot of internet-based companies that are able to get us over to that monopoly quantity. So this is your Microsoft, your Google, your Facebook, your Apple, your Twitter, and whatnot. Okay. Um, while we still have older industries like agriculture and so forth that actually operate over here. Okay, enough. That's the last thing that you need to know for the last exam in micro. It's been fun having you in class. Synchronous remote worked out about as well as I expected to. It's not as bad as an online class. I think it does work better than a true online class where everybody's off on their own island doing their own thing. But it's not as good as face-to-face, I don't think. And I guess I did notice a little fade out towards the end. On my end, it seems like the students kind of were not as engaged, but maybe it was, maybe my class got boring and hard. I don't know. Okay, anyways, enough. I will see you guys on Thursday in the exam.